some comments on waterboarding. So we'll get to that here in just a second.
Who is the man that would risk his neck for his brother, man? Chef!
All right, Chris Arps, fresh from bonding out of jail down in Jefferson City after that blowout party he attended last night. How are you, my friend?
Where I missed you.
Just teasing, of course.
I was kind of thinking, was your pumpkin going to turn into, or your
no,
cherry going to turn into a pumpkin at midnight?
We never planned on staying there more than a couple hours to begin with. Got there right at 7, and probably 9:15 or so, we were out the door.
So that's how celebrities do. They have to be seen, and then they just flee.
No, it was a madhouse. Honestly, okay. How many of those have you attended?
That's the first one for
First
me.
one.
Yeah.
What were your impressions of the governor's ball? Not the inauguration, because you attended the inauguration too. But what were your impressions of the governor's ball last night?
Well, it was, I guess, just an inaugural ball. It was kind of like a party. They were playing kind of contemporary hits. The rotunda was just so crowded. That's why I missed you, that I didn't get to see the first dance and the governor and his wife and all that. We were in a state rep's office having adult cocktails. So.
Sure. It was unorganized chaos is what I saw there last night. And you were there.
Yeah.
Our friend John was there. Jamie Allman was there.
I got a picture of Jamie.
Stacey Washington was there. There are all these people that I found out were there through social media because I never saw them. Yeah. Because there were so many people there. It was impossible to spend any time, first of all, to find someone and then spend any time talking to them. So I did make it around to some of those state rep offices and congratulated him. I ran into Josh Hawley. I was able to shake his hand to congratulate him after being sworn in as Attorney General. But largely, it was just chaos.
Yeah, the rotunda's too small for something like that.
I would agree.
I'm wondering if it's like that every inauguration, or was there just a lot of interest in this one because it's a new governor, but it's just too small for something like that.
I mean, there was a big turnout, and I have to think it has something to do with the energy that swept all of these Republicans into statewide offices after only having one for so long, and there were probably people that hadn't had this opportunity. Maybe since Blunt, they hadn't been there or never been to one, and they all showed up last night.
You know what my longest lasting forever memory is going to be of the inauguration itself?
What's that?
Was that beautiful B-2 stealth bomber flying over while the governor was being inaugurated.
Yes.
That thing is beautiful. I'd never seen one before flying.
They brought it in from Whiteman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it flew over, and it was very quiet, and it looked like a big bat wing, and it was like, very exciting.
You could hear it.
Yeah.
Like we ran the audio clip of him being sworn in, and all of a sudden they had to start talking louder because of the noise.
You know, if I was somewhere over in the Middle East thinking about blowing up Americans, I'd be very intimidated seeing that plane coming after me.
Fly one of those over Kim Jong-un or whatever his name is, who threatened us with an ICBM yesterday. Nice.
Yep.
That's nice. So what did you learn last night? Because clearly you were in some state reps' offices and some senators' offices. I was in there with Senator Bob Onder at one point. We talked about what he's got coming up on the agenda Wednesday. We may try to get him on the show on Thursday because he's heading up one of the Senate committees that's going to be handling the hearings on right to work.
Right.
I believe prevailing wage. He mentioned they're going to bring up, and there was one other one that we talked about last night.
I know one thing that I think we're going to see is what you were saying, right to work. I think we're going to see a big push for school choice and charter schools. And I think we're going to see a very interesting dynamic this session with the governor's ethics reforms, and we see kind of a pushback from the legislature on some of that. And even though, Republicans control everything, that's one thing that they're not completely on the same page about. So it's going to be interesting watching that dynamic.
I can remember when I worked at Channel 4 and Jamie Allman was still over there. And I remember one of the reports he did one time was he went to Jeff City to the Capitol building, and he kind of did a little surprise visit to a few of the offices, and when you'd walk into their antechamber, like you walk in and there's a secretary's desk, and then off to the side is the actual House member's desk.
Right.
And if you walked into that room and you looked against one wall, and there would be boxes of liquor and booze and beer stacked up because of all of the gifts that these lobbyists used to shower on these legislators. And it was embarrassing to them, I'm sure, but it's hard to imagine that you're not swayed by things like that. So I don't have any problem with a ban on gifts from lobbyists because I don't think it has a place in politics. I mean, I know it's been standard practice for many years in Missouri, but it's probably time to wind that, because that was years ago.
Yeah, I don't think it's an oversimplification, and we've kind of seen of it kind of seeping out over the last few years with some of the ethics and shenanigans going up in Jeff City. But Jeff City at one time was basically Sodom and Gomorrah almost, and we're seeing, as I said, some of the ethics stuff that's happened over the last few years where that seeped out. Here's the age-old question to me about lobbying and gifts and all that stuff. If you are a minority legislature that's in a super minority and you really aren't going to affect anything and your vote really doesn't mean a lot in a lot of instances, is it bad for you to take tickets to the games and all this stuff? I mean, you're not really affecting policy or really doing anything. Is that an ethical thing for them?
That's kind of racist.
No,
but I'm just teasing you.
Well,
no, seriously.
And there was a story about that, in the Post-Dispatch, where there was a black state rep up in North County.
Yeah.
He was the largest one. And
he took most of any of them.
But he's
right?
not. But he's not Is he affecting any policy?
Well, no, but I don't think it should. I think he was pointed out as an example of the problem, not because of what party he was in, because there were Republicans who were not quite but almost equal offenders. Yeah. If you just ban it across the board, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Yeah. And the people that should be happiest about it should be the lobbyists, because it's going to save them a lot of money. They're going to get paid the same. That job is still going to exist. Does that mean you can't take them out to dinner or anything? I haven't seen the legislation.
It makes your job a little easier when you can kind of grease the skids with a dinner or a lunch or
I don't see what
cognac.
I think as long as you have reasonable limits on it is the problem, right? Yeah. And you can give somebody tickets to a Rams game, for example, and argue, well, the Rams are crappy, so nobody cares anyway. But there's still a dollar value attached to that, and I think that's kind of what it needs to get to. There's just no way. I mean,
well, I've stayed at home at night pondering that question, and just want to get your opinion on it.
Well, I mean, if you, for example, if you weren't treating me to cigars and bourbon, you wouldn't be on the show. So, I know it's effective, but I just don't think our legislators should do it.
I thought we were going to keep that off air.
I'm just teasing you, my friend. That's Chris Arps. I'm Mark Cox. We're going to keep kicking around this, what we learned in Jefferson City yesterday. I also want to talk about, when we come back, I want to talk about the president's farewell speech tonight. And they're extending the hours of the L up in Chicago, and they're shutting everything down early to help with traffic because they're expecting some huge turnout in the park up there in Chicago near the waterfront, where the president is going to return to the spot where he gave his victory speech